Have you ever felt an impulse, a thought, or a desire so disturbing that you instantly pushed it away? That moment of rejection, where you silence a part of yourself, is the birth of what Carl Jung called the shadow. It is everything we suppress, deny, or refuse to acknowledge, yet it never truly disappears. It lingers beneath the surface, shaping our choices, influencing our relationships, and whispering in our subconscious. Some recognize their shadow and work to integrate it, while others remain blind to it, letting it control them from the depths. But why? Why do some people evolve while others seem trapped in a cycle of deception, cruelty, and self-destruction? Many think of the shadow as pure darkness, evil impulses, rage, greed, or cruelty. But Jung's concept goes beyond mere morality. The shadow isn't just what is bad, it is what is unaccepted. A person raised to be submissive might repress their strength and assertiveness. A child taught that vulnerability is weakness might suppress their emotions and compassion. Over time, these repressed parts don't just vanish. They manifest in unconscious behaviors, in projections onto others, in dreams and obsessions. Some people face their shadow and begin the painful work of self-awareness. Others bury it deeper, unable or unwilling to face their true selves. The difference between those who change and those who don't lies in their relationship with discomfort. Facing the shadow requires confronting painful truths, our fears, flaws, and contradictions. This is terrifying. It demands humility, courage, and self-examination. But for some, the idea of admitting weakness is unbearable. They build walls of denial, justify their actions, and project their darkness onto others. Instead of looking inward, they blame, manipulate, and deceive. Because doing so is easier than self-reflection. Over time, the shadow takes control, shaping their identity until they no longer recognize, nor care, that they've become its puppet. Not everyone who has a shadow is doomed to be ruled by it. The difference between transformation and stagnation lies in one crucial choice. Do you confront your darkness, or do you let it define you? Those who integrate their shadow become more whole, more authentic, more powerful in a true sense. But those who refuse to face it become its prisoner. They justify their worst behaviors, craft illusions to protect their ego, and reject any opportunity for growth. This is why some people will never change, because to do so would mean shattering the identity they have built, an identity that, no matter how destructive, feels safer than the unknown. There's a reason why some people resist change, even when it's painfully clear that they should. The ego, the carefully constructed identity we build over time, acts as a shield, protecting us from discomfort, from insecurity, and most of all, from the terrifying possibility that we might be wrong. To change means to admit that something within us is flawed, and for many, that is simply unbearable. Imagine a person who has built their entire self-image around the idea that they are strong, competent, and always in control. If they were to acknowledge their mistakes or weaknesses, their sense of self would crack. Instead of facing this, they double down, reinforcing their illusions with excuses, justifications, and sometimes even aggression. This is why pride and narcissism often go hand in hand with an unwillingness to change. The more fragile the ego, the more fiercely it resists anything that threatens its carefully constructed identity. But the most dangerous mechanism of all is projection, the psychological trick of blaming others for the very things we refuse to see in ourselves. It's why those who deceive accuse others of lying, why the cruel call others weak, why the insecure belittle and control. By shifting the blame outward, they avoid the painful process of self-examination. And over time, this pattern becomes so ingrained that they are no longer lying to others. They are lying to themselves. This is the true trap of the ego. The more we protect our illusions, the more disconnected we become from reality. And the more disconnected we are, the harder it becomes to break free. This is why some people never change. Not because they can't, but because to do so would mean dismantling the very foundation of who they believe they are. And for some, that price is simply too high. Not everyone resists change out of fear or insecurity. Some resist it because they enjoy who they have become. Power, control, and dominance can be intoxicating. And for those who have learned to wield their shadow as a weapon, the idea of giving it up feels like weakness, not growth. Carl Jung understood this well. He recognized that darkness isn't just something people suppress. Sometimes, it's something they embrace. Imagine a person who has spent years manipulating others, bending situations to their will, and getting exactly what they want through deception or coercion. Over time, they no longer see these behaviors as flaws. They see them as strengths. Why would they give up the very tools that have made them successful? In their minds, kindness is naivety, honesty is a vulnerability, and morality is a restriction for the weak. This isn't just psychological, it's neurological. Power activates the brain's reward system, reinforcing behaviors that bring control and dominance. And just like an addiction, the more one indulges, the harder it is to stop. History is filled with figures who embodied this path. Leaders, dictators, and manipulators who not only refused to change but thrived in their darkness. But it's not just historical figures. We see it in everyday life. The ruthless boss who exploits employees, the partner who thrives on emotional control, the person who takes pleasure in others' failures. These individuals have fully identified with their shadow, and for them, redemption isn't a goal, it's a weakness. But here's the paradox. The deeper one indulges in power, the emptier they become. While they may appear successful, inside they are prisoners of their own creation. The more they control, the more paranoid they become. The more they dominate, the more they fear being dominated. The shadow, once a hidden force, has now taken full control. And at this point, change is no longer just difficult, it is nearly impossible. For most people, the shadow remains a hidden force, shaping their thoughts and behaviors from beneath the surface. But for a rare few, there is another path. A path that requires confronting the darkness head-on. Carl Jung called this process individuation. The journey of integrating the shadow, not repressing it, but understanding and accepting it as a part of the whole self. It is the only true path to transformation, but it comes at a cost. Deep discomfort, painful self-honesty, and the courage to face what we most fear within ourselves. Integration does not mean eliminating the shadow. It means acknowledging its presence without allowing it to control us. It means recognizing our capacity for selfishness, cruelty, and deceit, but choosing consciously to act with wisdom and integrity. Those who succeed in this journey gain something rare: true self-awareness. They are no longer ruled by unconscious impulses. They are not at war with themselves. They stand firmly in who they are, with no need for deception or power games. But why do so few succeed? Because this process is brutal. It demands an ego death, a shattering of old identities, false narratives, and comforting illusions. It requires admitting painful truths, that we have harmed others, that we have been weak, that we are not as virtuous as we once believed. Many begin this path but turn back when the weight of self-awareness becomes too heavy. And those who have built their entire lives around their shadow often refuse to even start. So what separates those who change from those who never will? The answer is simple, yet profound. A willingness to suffer in the name of truth. True transformation is not about comfort. It is about confrontation. And in a world where most seek to escape their pain, only a rare few will ever choose to face it. What happens to those who refuse to face their shadow? At first, nothing seems wrong. They continue living as they always have, protecting their illusions, justifying their actions, and avoiding any real self-reflection. But the truth is, the shadow does not disappear. It only grows stronger in the darkness. And over time, the cost of ignoring it becomes impossible to escape. Repressed shadows don't stay buried forever. They find ways to surface through destructive habits, emotional outbursts, failed relationships, or even physical illness. The person who suppresses their aggression becomes chronically passive and resentful. The one who denies their need for love becomes cold and disconnected. The one who refuses to see their flaws projects them onto others, creating cycles of conflict and self-sabotage. The longer this repression continues, the more the unconscious fights to be seen, often in ways that lead to self-destruction. History has shown this pattern repeatedly. Societies that deny their collective shadow eventually collapse under the weight of their hypocrisy. Individuals who repress their darkness often implode in moments of crisis, whether through scandal, violence, or psychological breakdown. Even on a personal level, refusing to acknowledge the shadow leads to a life of inner turmoil, where nothing ever feels truly whole. People wonder why they feel empty despite success, why relationships fall apart despite their best intentions, or why they are drawn to chaos and self-sabotage. The answer is simple. What is ignored does not disappear. It controls you from the shadows. But there is always a choice. The shadow is not an enemy. It is a teacher. Those who dare to face it gain something rare: authenticity, freedom, and a deep understanding of themselves and the world. But those who refuse to look inward, who run from their darkness, will one day find that it was chasing them all along. That's it for today's video. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. It really helps support the content and brings more people into these deep conversations. We explore topics like this every single day, so if you're interested in philosophy, psychology, and self-discovery, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.